Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Inappropriate Growth Podcast. Today, we got a powerhouse entrepreneur joining us, the one and only Ann Carden. Ann, she's built a phenomenal career spanning over 4 decades, helping countless businesses and individuals create millions of dollars in business. From overcoming financial hardship to building and selling multiple businesses herself, her story is one of resilience, innovation, and sheer hustle. Ann's expertise goes beyond just business. She's a best-selling author, a sought-after speaker, and the host of her own podcast, Expert in You. But enough for me. Let's dive right into this conversation and unlock the secrets to building a million-dollar brand with Ann Carden. Let's get inappropriate. Welcome to the Inappropriate Growth Podcast. I'm Paul Angelle, your host, and today I'm very excited. I got Miss Ann Carden here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on, Paul. This is a pleasure. So I live in Missouri. I'm in the States, and I am a business growth consultant. I also am a CEO of Expert in You marketing and media agency, but I'm the founder of the Expert in You programs, book, all of it. But I work with clients who are really ready. They really want to grow and scale a premium high end business. So they're looking to get those big clients. They're looking for strategies that can help them grow faster and really get into that $1 million or more. And that's what I do.
If we rewind the clock, what were your early aspirations, and did you always envision yourself on this path to entrepreneurship?
That's so funny. I did the corporate thing out of college for 13 years. I was in business management, and I thought that was going to be my path until I had kids. And then, they were not very kind about having kids when your child gets sick and you have to stay home. And so I made the decision I was going to be a stay at home mom, but then financially we were just really struggling. My husband's check just didn't cover things. And there came a turning point where my 4 year old son needed shoes. And I sat down and cried because we didn't have the money. It was time to do something. But we live in the country. I know you and I had this conversation. No opportunity. I would have had to drive an hour. At that time, we had one vehicle. Like, it's just a whole long story. But I started my first business, and that was 34 years ago. And it went global, and that was before the internet. So, I mean, maybe the internet was around. I didn't know about it, and I didn't, we didn't have home computers and things like that. So I did build that business the old fashioned way. But that was really the start of entrepreneurship. However, as I was on a podcast one day, somebody said, "When was your first business?" And when I thought back, I don't know if it was a business, but I was 7 when I made my first money for myself. I sold craft classes to the neighborhood kids and taught them how to make something that I had learned in my basement, and I charged them. And all through my childhood, I started looking, oh my gosh, I learned how to make money early, and I was always looking for ways to make my own money. So whether that was cleaning houses or babysitting or selling door to door, I used to sell Christmas cards and flower seeds and vegetable seeds. I did all of that as a kid. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was back then, but I never thought about it that way. But my dad was always an entrepreneur. He always had his own business growing up. And at one point, so I have 2 brothers and a sister, and at one point we were all 4 running our own businesses. So I guess I did get it ingrained in me, but it's interesting because even when I worked in corporate, I was an entrepreneur. Like, I was setting up events, and I was doing things that other people in management. I was in high end retail stores running multi-million dollar departments, and I was in charge of those departments doing well and managing the people and the revenue. We were responsible for it just like it was our own business. Now, it wasn't our own money, right? But look back, and again, I really had to think this through. This really kind of came to me. I recently released a magazine. I think you can see it behind me. And I was writing an article for this around the wow experience, the client experience. And as I was writing that article, I was like, Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that back when I was in retail, I was in the luxury markets. And that is very much, even though I don't consider luxury, I'm in the high end market today and help people get into the high end market. It really did kind of set the tone, I think, for what I do now and what I've known for years building multiple businesses. I always ran premium offers. Always. That was where my first $1 million offer came from when I was had a fitness club. And back then it was not a thing. And I had a $12,000 offer, almost a $12,000 offer. And that was 28 years ago. Now that's not a big deal, but back then it was unheard of. And so I've always had these high end services that I have learned to be the fast path for business growth. And so that's really where my whole model that I do today comes from. And it started, I think, when I was back in retail, working in the luxury markets and running those. So it's interesting how all of those things feed what you do now.
What specific challenges did you face in launching, and how did you persevere?
hmm So, so my first business was kind of a design doll business. It was the craft industry was really exploding across the country. Now we have online stuff that people do, right? And they do things online, but back then that wasn't a thing. And so I had to look for, okay, where are the opportunities that I can do, still being a mom, and so I decided to get into the craft industry, but I was just going to make some things. And I've always been very crafty. Like I said, I sold craft classes in my basement when I was a kid, right? When I was 7. So I thought, there's a little store in town. And if I can make some things, and I had always kind of dabbled with craft stuff, even doing my son's nursery and all of that. So I had this box of stuff in my basement that was probably worth about $15 worth of stuff. And I said, there's a little store in town. Maybe I can make some things and I can take them to the store and sell them. So my intention was just to make some extra money to help my family. And after about 2 or 3 weeks, when I took them into the store, it was consignment. And she said, well, I'll put these towel racks in here, but I don't really think they're going to sell. I don't think this is what our people are looking for, but I'll put them in here. And she did. So, after 3 weeks of calling her, okay, well, did anything sell? Did anything sell? And she said, no. She said, if you want to come in and pick them up, I just don't think they're going to sell. So I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do now? So when I went into the store to pick them up, I said, tell me what's selling. And she said, these rabbit dolls, these are the hottest thing. We cannot keep them. I thought, a rabbit doll? I have no idea how I'm going to make a rabbit doll. Well, this particular rabbit doll was really beautiful. And it was, people would sit them on their beds and they would, decorate their homes with them. And I thought, I have no idea how to make a rabbit doll. I've never done anything like this. So I decided I was going to do some market research. And I went and I looked at a lot of different patterns and a lot of different rabbit dolls and craft things that were out there. And I thought, okay, I'm going to design my own. I'm not going to copy somebody else. And I'm certainly not going to make it from a pattern. So I'm going to borrow my mom's sewing machine and get my hot glue gun. And I'm going to try to make my own design. Well, long story short, when I made the first couple of dolls, I took them into her because I was very limited on funds. And I took them into her and she said, oh my gosh, these are going to sell. And they did. They flew off the shelf. And then what really put my business on the map, though, is some Noah's Ark fabric came out. I'm a Christian. So this Noah's Ark fabric came out, and a lot of people were doing nurseries with Noah's Ark. And all of a sudden, it was like God just gave me this inspiration. Do a whole line of dolls that are animals and do a male and do a female and dress them in the Noah's Ark fabric. And so that's what I did. So I did this Noah's Ark line. Well, long story short, I ended up being in stores all across the country. I was shipping. I'll never forget the day. I was running a manufacturing company out of my home. I hired a bunch of moms in the neighborhood that were stay-at-home moms, do stuffed doll parts and help cut patterns and help sew. And so I did this all these were my own designs. They were all my own creations. They were signed and numbered. They had little hang tags. And I'll never forget the day people had to call in. I was advertising in international magazines. And in fact, my dolls ended up on the cover of Country Sampler, which was an international craft magazine back there, which was a really big deal. They were selected. You couldn't buy the cover. They were selected. So everybody always wanted to be on the cover because once your dolls were on the cover, you were golden. So anyways, people had to call in their orders. And I'll never forget the day I started to say this 2 times. I got a call from Iceland and a lady wanted a doll. And her husband was in the military and she was traveling all over, but she was living in Iceland. And she said, I just want you to know, I can never wait. I'm so excited when you put out another set of dolls, a new animal pack, because she said, your dolls they just make me so happy. And I'm here by myself. I'm alone. And I almost get choked up thinking about it because who would think dolls would impact somebody's life, right? But they did. And people would collect them. They would wait for the next ones to come out and they would collect them. And they were not cheap. They were more than what a lot of people were selling their dolls for. So that was again part of that premium thing. But so I did that for 7 years, and then eventually, when we started seeing the market change, because a lot of people were importing things from China, and all that was kind of coming onto the scene, I saw the market shifting. So then I went into just designing patterns and selling to pattern companies, and then people could buy my patterns and then they could create. But I just didn't love that. It was just boring. And it just wasn't that much fun. But I did that. So I did that for 7 years before I finally decided to sell out to that pattern company and close the doors on that.
What strategies do you think helped, that of all the strategies you employed, what helped the most to achieve that kind of success in that sandbox?
Yeah, I never was afraid to expand. So I would open more stores, and they weren't my stores, but I would be in stores all across the country. I was in many, many stores in many states. Was never afraid to expand and go all in. And I think a lot of people, they are afraid of that. The other thing, the strategy is being more premium and being unique, really being different than everyone else. Even though originally it started with a rabbit doll, it was still different from what everyone else was doing, right? So I have found that to be the best strategy, premium and different, throughout all of my businesses. And I've always looked to try to be different. And I've always looked to try to be premium and not play in the mainstream. Because when you play in the mainstream, it's like shark infested waters. Everybody's fighting for the same people. When you move into higher end markets, and number one, you don't have to worry about economic changes the same way. You also, you'll be more profitable. And so because of those things, I was able to expand and do more. And it's just, to me, those are just some of the most powerful strategies, but they're the same things I teach people now, is how to be different, how to innovate, how to be at the higher end of their market. Everything else is a downsell. So they can still have other stuff, but it's a downsell. You're selling premium. You're positioning yourself as premium and different, and you're pulling in those people. It's really interesting. I have a client that I've been working with, and her highest services were like, I don't know, $10,000 for a year or something. And she came to one of my virtual workshops and she saw what I was helping people do. And she said, I want $100,000 offer. I want to create $100,000 offer. And so we started working together. We put together that $100,000 offer. We got her positioned for that $100,000 offer. And as soon as we did that and put some strategies in place, she started booking calls. And she wasn't selling her $100,000 offer, but she was selling the $25,000 offer. And it was still much more than what she had ever charged. So she will sell the $100,000 offer. She's just getting started, but she was able to sell, a couple of the $25,000 offers like within a 3-day period. She's like, I just put $50,000 in my bank account since Friday when we got on a call. And she said, I have a process. She said, this is blowing my mind. And she was talking about, she had worked in her local market, and she had worked in her local market for years, and she was amazing at what she does. She's brilliant. But she said it had just dried up. And I was online and I was doing stuff on LinkedIn and doing stuff, but I didn't really have a process or a system that I knew could work. And so nothing was happening as a result of that. And so she just needed a great strategy and the great positioning and all the things that I teach people. But yeah, going after the $100,000 people allowed her. And in fact, it was really interesting. Somebody came back to her that she had worked with in the past because they saw everything she was doing and she looked really premium. And she said, well, those are not my prices anymore. My rock bottom price is 25,000. He said, good for you. You deserve it. But it looked like she was doing bigger things. It looked like she was more premium. And so 25,000 seemed like nothing.
You also do speaking, and you've been a public speaker
Mhm.
for over 40 years. How
Yeah,
is this
years and
skill?
years. Even as a kid, I did speaking.
I was a talker. I don't know if I was a speaker, but this skill has played a role in your success. I am sure of that. What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are hesitant or maybe terrified of public speaking?
Yeah, get over it and learn the skill. I'm serious. There really is just no other way to say it because I built all my businesses except probably the first one. But even with that, I had to go in and ask the lady if she would put my stuff in, right? And then even with that first business, I was doing a lot of craft shows and things like that on the weekends, and so I was doing other things to try to build that up. If you can't learn to be a communicator, if you are afraid to be social, if you're afraid to get out and speak and talk about your thing, and me getting out and doing that was the thing that built all my other businesses. Every other one of them was getting out, speaking to the community, sharing my expertise. And so I, again, have been doing this for years. It is definitely the number one thing that has built all of my businesses, outside of, paid advertising that I did. Somebody still has to be the face of your brand, but I know that probably sounds harsh, just get over it, but I'm telling you, it's your best money-making skill you'll ever learn, because even if you don't really understand marketing, you can go out and talk to people and speak and you can get clients, right? But I do think, a great strategy for somebody that wants to do that is just imagine you're just having a conversation with people, because really that is what speaking is. It's just showing up and giving your value and being excited about what you have. And I mean, granted, there's some strategies that can make your speaking powerful if you're trying to sell from the stage and things like that, right? But for the most part, people need to, they're interested, they want to engage. And so just imagine you're talking to one person versus a whole lot of people. That's probably one of the simplest tricks that you can use if you're afraid. If you're going to be a business owner or an entrepreneur and you want to build success, it is a skill you need to learn. If you're always going to just work for someone else, but even with that, you can't get the promotions often if you can't be a good speaker or a good leader and be in front of people. That is going to hold you back. It's going to hold you back in life, but it's going to hold you back in your career. It's going to hold you back in your business. So I think if you need to work with someone to get over that and learn those skills, you need to do it. But at some point, you just have to take that step and say, just like anything, this is something that I need to do if I'm going to further this and build this. If you are afraid to public speak, you're making it about you and not about them. You're being so self-centered instead of saying, hey, I have something to share. I want to share with you. I want to teach you. I want you, I'm here for a reason. I'm sharing this message for a reason. And so it's about you. It's about how can I give to you? And I think a lot of people don't speak because they're afraid of being judged and they're afraid they're going to mess up. And there are all those fears, right, that come up. But that's because, again, they're making it about them.
Tell me about your podcast, The Expert in You. What inspired you to create it, and what topics do you focus on to empower your audience?
Yeah, so I interview experts. I interview people that really have something to share. They have probably been in their business or in their career or whatever, for a long time. They really have built up expertise and knowledge and skills that will give back to my audience. But my podcast started as a way to give value to the market, but also potentially get clients. But the first year I did it, in fact, I changed the name the second year to Expert in You. The first year it was not called that. It was called The Strategic Edge. And I interviewed all the wrong people, and I didn't have a good strategy behind it, and it did nothing. It brought me zero. After that, I said, I'm going to figure this out or I'm going to get rid of it. Even though I loved it, it was money going out, it was time going out, all of that. So I refigured the whole format and the entire strategy behind it. And now it is one of the most powerful ways to get clients, high-end clients. If you are in it for the long game, make it work for you. If it's part of your business, it should make you money. That's the first thing. Everything should make you money. So if it's not growing your business and making you money, then figure that out, because don't give up the podcast. Just figure out how to make that work better for you. Virtual speaking in a lot of ways. So now I do a lot more virtual speaking than actual speaking on stages. Because I found it scalable, and speaking on stages, you're running all over the place and you're traveling and you're doing all that. To me, it's too much time. I can make a lot more money virtually speaking. So that's what I do.
Oh, we just charge an insane amount of money to where you're excited to get. Try hiring Tom Tracy or Tony Robbins to come speak to you. You can't afford it. As a successful woman with a jam-packed schedule, right? How do you maintain a healthy work-life balance?
Yeah. So one of the benefits to having a more premium business is you don't need to work with a million clients. I have, think about this. And this is one of the things I talk about. If you have $50,000 clients, you only need 20 of them to have $1 million business. Well, that's a very streamlined business. I have a team of people, but I have a high profit business. And I teach the same thing, because I am not about the hustle and grind. I am not about volume. I learned this premium strategy way back when, even when I had my health clubs, which health clubs are volume businesses, right? I still had those really premium high-end services. And that's what really made the money. That's what allowed me to keep expanding and growing those businesses and building them into something big. And, because of that, I'm able to easily have work-life balance. I travel all over. I have grandkids. We have property, and I have a condo at the lake, and just got back from there yesterday, and we're always on the go. I couldn't do that if I was tied down, sucked in to my business. So that is one of the benefits. Even if you do not have premium services now, you should add them, because they will be your money makers. And look, we know the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of your revenue, 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients. Just get more of the 20. No, it does not matter. So why not just work with the 20% and make that 20% 30 or 40 or 50%? That's how you find work-life balance. It is not by scraping the bottom. It is not with a fast race to the bottom, charging the cheapest prices. Walmart was able to do that successfully, and McDonald's was able to do that successfully, but most people cannot. So understanding that, and here's the thing. If you're doing that and I'm doing that and other people are doing that, there's enough business to go around, because we're not looking for 1 million people to serve. So, people say, I want to impact 1 million people. You can impact 1 million people. It doesn't mean you need to work with all of them. So that's how I keep work-life balance. It's the model that I have. It's simple, and that's what I teach.
All right. Well, what are some exciting projects or goals you're working towards in the future? And the follow-up to that is, how do you envision yourself continuing to empower entrepreneurs in the future?
Yeah, so I just am getting ready to launch a brand new system. It's not new for me. I've been really putting it together for a lot of years, but it's I call it a VIP virtual system. It's about helping you step into the expert virtual spotlight and selling more than you've ever sold before. So I have this whole system that I've put together, refined. it is a game changer for people in their business, especially to bring in high paying premium clients. So I'm getting ready to actually launch that. It's been part of my programs, but I'm actually getting ready to start marketing that as a separate thing. So that's one thing. The other thing is I launched my first magazine, and so I'm building that up, that media side of my business, and I'm really excited about that as well. So those are the things I have going on, to
Well,
keep.
let's say somebody is watching or listening to this podcast and they want to get in touch with you. They want to work with you. They want to ask you a question. They want to
Mhm.
benefit from your experience. What are the best ways to do that?
Yes, so you can either book a call with me and let's have a conversation at acarden.com, or you can attend my next VIP workshop if you are ready to do some of the things I'm talking about. And maybe you don't know me yet, but you can also check me out. You can Google me and you can see a million things out there, videos, and there's no shortage of content out there if you want to find out more about what I do. But I always typically have a workshop running, and that's a great way to come in and really learn from me and grow. And you can do that at expertinyouworkshop.com.
That's how I know that I'm a grown up now. I'm not afraid to tell people to Google me.
I know I had somebody say to me one day, I was a speaker in an offline event at an association thing. And somebody introduced me to this guy, and he said, "Do you have a business card?" And I said, "I don't use business cards. I don't go out and market like this. I haven't networked in years." And he said, "Well, how do I find out more about you?" I said, "Just Google me." It probably sounded really arrogant. I didn't mean for it to, but I said, "You'll have no trouble finding me. I'm all over online." And so he kind of laughed about that. He said, "Just Google you." And I said, it's the fastest path. What's a business card going to do? Give you my name and phone number. Big
I'm
deal.
looking at 3 of them on my floor. I bought it. I mean, you got to buy 1,000. And
Yeah, I haven't used a business card in so many years. I don't even have them. Now I would hand somebody my book, or I would hand somebody my magazine. I would hand them something like that, as here's how you can get a hold of me. My information's in here.
all right. Well, thank you. This has been a treat. I'm
Thank you.
really, really glad you joined us, and I've learned a whole bunch of things. And I'm taking away some things that are actually already in me. I guess that might be behind your expert in you name. Uh, this
That's
was
it. Everybody's got it. They have a lot more value than they are selling, for sure.
awesome, awesome call. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
to our listeners and our viewers, if you want to grow, chances are strong you're going to have to do something inappropriate.